In that case, we move to page 10, which is the for confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. Would someone like to move that they be taken as read and that they are a true record of the last meeting? Councillor Menzies, thank you. Seconder. You, Tom. Any matters arising? No? Okay. All right. So we can move then to the report on page 13, which is the earthquake-prone buildings and the submissions received. So the first submitter we have is Lindsay Younsson. Would you like to come forward, Lindsay, please? So we've just allocated 10 minutes per speaker, and the committee may ask some questions. So Lindsay's, what was that?
Just wondering if we could get the author, Simon Donker, to introduce the report to the start.
Oh yes, Simon, do you wish to say some introductory words?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This meeting today is to hear the submissions from 7 submitters that wish to speak to their submissions, so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you very much. You've still got 10 minutes.
Okay. Thanks very much.
And Lindsay, submissions on page 110.
Yeah, which is what I've got here as well. Okay, so I guess the format, how I've got this spaced out is pretty much, I'll do a spear on about questions on the way through, if that's okay, as opposed to questions at the end, if you okay, group or that. Okay, so I'm going to do this verbatim, so I've pretty much only put it together the last couple of days. So the EPB came into effect in 2016 with the system changed on the 1st of July 2017. From what I say would be a knee-jerk reaction post the last Kaikoura earthquake. Section 2 of the STC Statement of Proposal to Owners dated 7/8/20, I refer to page 1.3, and I'll read that out. The seismic hazard factor for Z has located a te reo within a medium seismic risk area. This means Southern District Council must identify potentially earthquake-prone buildings in this area within 10 years, and building owners must strengthen or demolish earthquake-prone buildings within 25 years, unless categorised as a priority building. If we go down to the highlighted section below that, priority buildings pose a high risk to high life safety or critical to recovery in an emergency. So as I put in my submission, I sort of touched on the what the te reo's like, and I'll just run through what I put in my submission if you guys haven't got that. So the traffic won't be an issue on the main street of the te reo as trucks and emergency vehicles can turn left or right down King of Queen Street. The te reo main street is wide enough that even if everything collapsed, it would not block the road. There would be no hindrance to emergency service in the case of an earthquake. And the risk to pedestrians also in day-to-day life is even minimal given the number of pedestrians in the te reo on any one given day. A scientific approach has been taken to these problem areas, clearly outlined in the earthquake seismic risk zones identified across the country. Our buildings are all individual, given when built, construction methods and materials available at the time. Best practice was used during the construction of these and is still testament to the builders to this day. They're all standing, and over that time, they've survived numerous earthquakes unscathed. The question I have for you guys, would Southland not be deemed to be low risk compared to other provinces around the country, and in particular Western Southland, which, if you put it on a map and look at the seismic graph, would appear to be farthest district from the fault line? You guys are welcome to answer that at any stage. So just during my research...
I was just going to say you've got the Alpine Fault as well as the Pusica Trench. So there are 2 earthquake zones in Southland, not 1.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think there's 3, isn't there?
Yeah, well, there's the smaller ones as well, but the 2 bigger ones that we're concerned about are the Alpine Fault and Pusica Trench.
I was meaning there's 3 zones.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah, there's 3. Yeah, there is 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And we fall into category 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I say, like, considering how far we are from the fault line, which is based around, we are quite a way. So anyways, that's...
Yep.
Okay, and the interesting thing that I found just during my research as well, just for this, I found the regulatory impact statement, the RIS, which was dated the 27th of April 2017. And I'll just take a snippet out of that. So the net cost of the Amendment Act was estimated in 2015 by Martin Jenkins via a cost-benefit model at $750 million. The net cost of the regulations described in this RIS for substantial alterations and exemptions is estimated at an additional $79 million. The catch here is the negative net cost estimates are driven by the extremely low probability of a significant earthquake. Now that, as I say, was in the RIS dated 27th April 2017. With Wellington falling under Category 1 and no doubt with a reasonable number of buildings to be assessed within the specified time, has STC given consideration to the availability of suitably qualified and experienced engineers to conduct their works to ascertain what level of criticality our buildings are? As you know, when supply and demand is at play, prices are inflated beyond what is considered to be normal pricing. So I was going to ask the forum, like we ask you guys, is there sufficient engineers in Southland to conduct this work?
Sorry, what?
Are there sufficient engineers
Oh, right.
in
yeah.
Southland to conduct this work going forward? Like we've got 5 different sub-areas at the moment. Okay, so we move on from that, and if you want to just do your research on this one as well, like you look at the adding to the available engineer crisis is the availability of suitably qualified fire engineers to engineer those buildings requiring specialist fire engineering to comply with the EPBs. Now there's one hell of a shortage of them globally, not just in New Zealand. So with the above in mind, and I just say this on behalf of all owners everywhere, can we request an undertaking of the SDC for assessment no sooner than the 1st of July 2022, which is 5 years from the 1st of July 2017 when the EPB amendment came into force? You don't have to answer that one today, but I'd appreciate a response on that. And secondly, will SDC make people apply for building consents to carry out any strengthening works?
Well, I guess part of this process is about sort of informing whatever decisions we might make.
Right.
Yeah, I think you probably understand, as you mentioned when you started, that this is a requirement put by the government carried out right through the country.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
get
something
that.
we've just gone out and done.
I understand that.
And it's about informing the public access and these other issues around if
Sure.
something did happen
But I guess
in these individual towns.
it's probably the opportunity to start at the top and work our way down because it's going to have a knock-on effect at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, so going back to the building consent, so I just saw where I'm at here. So, will we get an undertaking from the STC that there'll be an exemption from building consents as we go through the process?
Well, would need to be consideration
Right.
of those
Okay.
matters, yeah.
Okay. And the next question I would have in regard to that too then, what is South SDC's plan to manage the commercial buildings connected to commercial properties? To domestic properties?
Well, this is all informing future
Okay.
decisions on that.
Yep.
Yeah, like we sort of made our policies earlier, but this is another stage of relooking.
So they're
on
kind of
these.
like they're revolving, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where it's valuable to hear from people such as yourself
Yeah.
from these individual towns.
Yeah.
I noticed in submissions from a Tautau there was mention of one particular building that people were concerned about,
Oh, absolutely.
and that I don't know the building, but
Yeah.
it's just to raise awareness sort of thing.
Sure. And that is, I think you talk to anybody, it is of concern.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
obviously with high public facilities either side of that, it's a bigger concern.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Just to move on from that, so it's worth noting here that a lot of these buildings are low income, if any, owned by mums and dads without large cash reserves to conduct this kind of work outlined. Because obviously there's going to be substantial works required to get up to standard going forward. And we all probably heard of the costs associated with this from various other communities. It is quite substantial in most cases. So SDC cannot expect people who have budgeted for these high cost works where privateers who are self-funded, not a government or a council with an evergreen money tree flourishing in the backyard. For refer to section 7 of the original SDC statement of proposal letter, what happens next. Once priority thoroughfares have been finalised, SDC will look at buildings on those thoroughfares to determine whether they are potentially earthquake prone in accordance with the EP methodology. My understanding from my limited knowledge is that this score will be worked out from engineer's assessment. Would the SDC please to clarify, for the benefit of all, how this outcome will be determined? So I guess what I'm saying there is the engineer's assessment score the methodology you're going to use to get to the outcome here?
Sure, I can't answer, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess it's fair to say this process, or the flavour of the questioning is largely about, you know, the effect on the public.
Sure.
If an event happened, and is there other routes, and
Yeah.
is it affecting, you know, a high use area? Of course, it's a survey right through the country where there's a lot. Our small towns have
Yep.
got, you know, small numbers of people usually in the main street,
Sure.
but the same
Well-
applies in a city sort of thing.
What do you call high numbers of people in the street? Like if you look at a Tadao, as I say, on any given day, there's not. It's
Yeah.
not like D Street in Invercargill.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Queen Street in Auckland, you know.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
well pointed out in the submissions. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, well, I'm going back to section 7 again. So in your parting shot there, you say effective the building owners will be notified. Owners of potentially earthquake-prone buildings, whether priority or not, have 12 months to provide an engineering assessment. SDC will then determine whether the building is earthquake-prone and notify the owner of remediation requirements. So I guess I just want a bit of clarification around that. So is that something that the council advise on what needs to be done, or is that what the engineer does as part of his report, what needs to be done?
Well, I think, Marcus, you have any comment?
Yeah, and I guess, through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the role of the report here today is just to consider all the submissions, and they're really great points you are raising, which I think when the committee's in a space to make a decision on actually how this is going to progress forward, then these are all things that the committee are going to consider as part of that process, and obviously receive expert evidence from the building team in that space when they are ready to make a decision. So, yeah, I guess the panel up here today isn't really experts in this space, but they're all really good considerations that I guess the committee need to understand when making a decision on, actually when it comes to the time to making a decision on it. These are all good things that the committee needs to think about and understand and consider about in that process.
And this committee can only recommend to council who will make decisions, and those decisions won't be until in the new year. So, but
Right.
you will be informed,
Okay.
and even perhaps consulted if there's questions we have beyond
Well, I was
that.
going to ask about that.
Yeah.
That going forward, there'll be further consultation with owners or not.
Well, we want to work with people.
Yeah, and I guess that'll make it easier at the end of the day in some regards. So anyway, if I just move on and wrap up, 10 minutes is probably getting close to being up. So finally, like any big business, I'm sure SDC will have a 5, 10 and possibly 15-year lockerheads. Where does SDC see small towns sitting in the next 10 to 20-year plans?
So I was writing something down, I missed
So
it.
that, I can answer that.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
work
okay.
has been done through the communities themselves, so
Right.
through the community boards, through consultation within the communities. So we see all communities as being important, but we're not making decisions around how we see the community should be. It's up to communities to tell council
Right.
how they see their communities being. And you may have heard the concept of small council, big community. We're here to assist, not to tell communities how to run their towns.
And I guess the reason why I asked that is, like, I guess the concern will be, like, if there's exorbitant costs associated with each building to get this remedial work done going forward, people are probably just likely to say, well, you know, is it really worth it at the end of the day? Where is the small town stand then? So I think that's a serious consideration.
And that's
for
why,
SDC.
without getting into a debate, Mr Chairman, that is why government have asked for the communities to identify the buildings and the areas that concern them, and then we progress it from there. And you have made some very, very valid points that are mirrored throughout New Zealand, wherever there are buildings of the same concern.
And I guess, okay, just as the final sort of paragraph there is, as an owner, I ultimately see if FTC fails to work with those territories time the outcome of said works, this is just mutual gain, it's potentially no walk away. Which is not an outcome, I guess, any town needs, or the council needs as well. So I guess it's up to everyone to be proactive and make sure this is done in a timely fashion and in an affordable fashion as well.
To work together.
Absolutely. Well, it's not done affordably, or people, within people's budgets, well then, you know, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for taking part. Is there any questions beyond what we've discussed so far from anyone?
Yeah, just a comment really, and I just wondered, Mr. Gunsel, thank you for your submission. Were you expecting answers today into the several questions you have
I wasn't
raised?
too sure just exactly what format was.
Yes, and I just wonder if we can inform Mr. Gunsel of
Yeah.
how he might hear the answers to his questions that are informed as opposed to what comes off the top of our head. Right now, yeah.
So it's going to happen
Yeah.
a week or 2 weeks sort of cases, or New Year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's fine. But so long as, I guess everyone's present gets the copy as well, right? It's not just
That's fine. We just don't want to feel as though you've come and made the submission and then you
Oh,
didn't get a response. So it's just informing Mr.
So
Gunsel
this is
how
very
that
much the
occurs.
start
Yeah.
of the,
I guess it's about everything on the table now, so
Yeah.
get some transparency around it as well.
yeah. I mean, it's been hanging around for some time. We all know, you know, the situation. But this is sort of the first time recently that we've gone out and actually asked the questions. So,
I guess it's getting close to 2022, and it's time now. Everyone makes decisions and things happen, it's going to take it from 2022 anyway.
yeah, for sure.
So through the chair, I've made some notes of the questions, but I probably haven't got them complete. Have you got a copy of those questions? Have we got?
I don't have a copy here, but I do have it in front of me as well, so I can
Can you
send it
Yes.
through to Simon if you like.
That'd be good.
Simon, that would be great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Yeah. Just don't want them lost, and we want to make sure that they are addressed and where we go
Yeah.
to next stage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking part, Lindsay, and the points you've raised have been.
Appreciate
you
your
know.
time, thanks guys.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Lindsay Younsson,
Yes.
you are here next. Lindsay's is page 36.
I found that online survey thing and the fact that it froze and
Right.
I don't know, I must have submitted about 6 times to get something to like, you know. And this would have been handy if I'd had a copy of that to see what other submitters have done and see what my fellow Lyndon people have done as well beforehand, because I could have monitored my presentation on it. As it is, I've just monitored it on the thoroughfare. I own one of the buildings in this section of Lyndon between Redan Street and Scutari Street, and hopefully my building's going to be the last one standing. It's a concrete construction, built 1960. So I'm guessing you've seen the map of Lyndon. The building's on the west side of Balaclava Street, which is the side with the brick museum on it. Starts down on the corner, and there's shops there moving on to the museum. Lee's Dairy, the pharmacy, the disused museum, and then there's a driveway, an old yellow dairy, now a private residence. The Four Square shop, which is 2-storey. Further down we've got the old chemist shop right on the footpath, and the old butcher shop, which is empty, is right on the footpath, and the storage shed, and these are all right on the footpath. So when we have AF8, they'll be on the footpath for sure. The buildings on the east side is the old B&Z District Council Library that is 2-storey, and it's now Airbnb, so there may be people inside it. Further down, well, beside that's my building, and then the PGG Wrightson building, which was built in 1961, it's concrete construction. And further down we've got 2 private buildings, houses, dwellings that are right on the street front, right on the footpath, so there'll be debris fall from them. The priority buildings would be the town hall, which is right on the very end of that zone. It'll be used for incident management, food parcels, welfare, triage. So it's at the end of the block and away from any URE buildings. And the medical centre is out of Balaclava Street, it's around the corner. It's in an open area away from any URM buildings, as is the rugby club, the Lindsays College Hall and the community gymnasium, so we've got quite good buildings out of that area. What I'm alluding to is these buildings will be used as welfare centres, so if the buildings fall in that section of the main street of Wyndham, then we're not going to be hard done by. They're not major important buildings except for the four square that will be supplying food, and if it falls down then no one will be getting any food out of there. The four square should be a priority building, but it could be of no use at all, as it would be too dangerous to enter to retrieve food, like food supplies. The same could be said for Leeds Dairy and the pharmacy centre, which would be more likely in a pile of rubble. Other businesses in the street are the District Council Library, the PGG Wrightson building and my building, whose road access would be cut off, but there are small vehicle and foot traffic access through vacant sections from the adjoining street. So I've got access, and I'm sure we can take sheets of iron off if we had to get people access in and out of those businesses. The section of Balaclava Street isn't a vital thoroughfare for any traffic passing through Wyndham. There are four other streets that run in the same north and south direction as Balaclava Street. These streets have wide berms, which means we could drive around any earthquake damage on those streets. Likewise, this block is in a high foot traffic area and is not vital if the buildings have fallen down and they're not selling any goods and services. So if there is an earthquake, no one's going to be going down there anyway to go and get their bread and their milk. And I think in my submission I've got numbers of how many people actually work in that area.
17 I read.
17?
Yeah.
So it's not a big number. After the event, the survivors are either mobile or immobile. They can either walk through the rubble to safety or they'll need medical assistance. I'm sure there'll be a way of stretching people out 200 metres, or Kiwi ingenuity will find a way. In my humble opinion, the question of thoroughfare through this area is of low priority. After the dust is settled and we've recovered the bodies, the rubble can be cleared away with a loader excavator and the thoroughfare will be reinstated. But without a business operating, there's no urgency to open the thoroughfare. So, question one, I do not agree with this thoroughfare being a priority, as I don't think the businesses will be operating. Question two, I disagree with Balaclava Street thoroughfare because we've got major thoroughfare to either side of Balaclava Street. And for traffic through Wyndham, the other north and south streets meet the criteria. They go around the outskirts of Wyndham away from any earthquake damage that people can pass through from Glenham to Minderhill to Edendale, just by going around the outskirts of town. That's my...
Thank you, Lindsay. Any questions? Yeah, I think you've summed up the Wyndham situation very well. Thank you. Good. Next is Janina and Scott Brennan. Oh, next one. Okay, Tanya Beck from page 192. Welcome, Tanya. Thank you for coming along. And it's all yours.
I'm here representing the Tanya Museum and Heritage Trust, which is a building on that area that you've identified. I'd like to start by expressing my concern for the future of our small rural New Zealand towns. Our historic buildings and inhistoric buildings, how are we going to survive with all the rules and regulations which will have a huge impact on us small people? As a volunteer on a trust, the responsibility is huge, not only in spending public money, but also the personal liability that is being implemented by the powers that be. What are they trying to do to us? All these rules and regulations in small towns, we're going to have no small towns at that regard. It's just mind-boggling. I understand that it's difficult to meet in the middle. No one wants to see anyone hurt or killed, and to feel responsible for that. When we have no control over Mother Nature, it is impossible to predict the future. How will we all survive? How will we cope with all these extra costs being put upon us? As for the Te Museum Heritage Trust, we would like to make it clear that we oppose our museum building being tagged as a priority building, as it is a well-maintained, single-storey building with ongoing maintenance continually applied. The museum is a well-constructed building. The main structure of the building consists of thick masonry walls and contain a number of masonry return walls on the interior of the building. The roof structure is built on top of the walls rather than butting into the wall. This has the advantage of being able to accommodate a considerable amount of movement. As a result of the layout and construction, the lateral movement that would occur in the structure in a moderate earthquake would not result in either of the walls overturning or the roof collapsing. It is understood, it has stood the test of time already. The traffic around our building is very minimal. We have no bus stop, no train station, not even a taxi stand in our town, let alone outside our building. Some years ago our building passed an engineer's assessment, and it is only because of what happened in Christchurch that we are now going through this process all over again. Not to minimise what happened in Christchurch, but this is a small rural town with a small population compared to Christchurch. There are more people killed and injured on our local roads than there have been from any earthquakes here in our town. And lastly, I have a question around section 7 as well. Basically where it says that whether priority or not, we have 12 months to provide an engineer assessment. I haven't even been able to get our engineer to even provide me with a quote in the since we received this letter, let alone doing an assessment. So, but the same, like, how many engineers are there to cope with all this work? And yeah, I think it might take a little bit longer than a year to get everybody sorted. But thank you very much for letting me have my say. And yeah, that's pretty much our stance on our building.
Thank you, Tanya. Any questions?
No, thank you.
I must have misunderstood. I thought you said earlier that your building passed an assessment.
Yes.
So.
Some years ago though, but probably before.
Oh, I see. Before this started,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so now we're going to have to pay all over again.
Right.
And like I said, like I'm responsible for spending public money, same as you. And it's a difficult job at times, isn't it, to keep everybody happy and safe. But at the end of the day, it's I'm spending somebody else's money when it comes to doing all these jobs. I'm very aware of that.
Thank you.
Just to answer that off, my understanding is once the assessment's been done, that's it. I'm getting a nod down the back.
If there's already been a previous assessment that's taken into account.
Right.
So as long as that assessment verified the building meets the right criteria, that would be acceptable.
Okay.
Even though it was done some years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still got to meet the certain criteria, so we'd look at that assessment.
Yep.
So you know the result of that assessment, Tanya, I presume.
I've got a copy of the assessment and it has been signed off by the district council, so
Okay.
got a stamp on it.
Okay.
Good.
So you probably have a copy somewhere.
Yeah. And so do you mind telling us what percentage the assessment allocated to the building?
I don't know that there was a rating like that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's probably.
So it's just an assessment
it would be done to
on the
different
building.
rules to what you have now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. 2001 it was done, I believe.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, look, thanks very much. And
Thank you.
like the others, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, thank you.
Janine and Scott here?
No, not yet.
Okay. John and Lisa Hay?
No, you've got me, not Lisa.
All right.
That's all right.
We're quite happy about.
It's a busy time. For
Yes,
these
certainly.
guys, so,
Appreciate you coming.
That's good.
So page 190.
It's like probably one of the previous people, probably having something like this document file would be quite helpful for future reference.
Okay.
Anyway, by way of background, council, and thank you for the time. My wife and I and our family trust are the owners of 244 Crowcliffe Road, Woodton. It's a retail warehousing business situated on the western side of the road. And I understand from some of the work from Simon Tolkien that we're a a contributory building to the Heritage New Zealand listed area. Also, council needs to know this, prior to receiving the letter detailing these planning timeline reductions for earthquake prone buildings, my wife and I already started preliminary work on what's required to bring our building up to code. We already have an IEP report. We'll be talking with relevant engineers and consistent with what Tanya's saying to try and work in some of these timelines. It's just not going to be realistic. I do want to note too that when I completed with my wife the submission document, the questions are very leading, yes, no's. You can't dispute that there's a thoroughfare in Winton. We only have one footpath running right through the whole part of town. But what I did want to say to council is a little bit like some of the work that Environment South are doing. The timing of some of these submissions is extremely poor. This is the haymaking season for retail people, and to try and get them to be here today. And I've talked to several business owners in Winton this morning, and as I said, they're just too busy to be here. So I think you need to note that for future reference, that timing is important to us in business. Also, talking of 50% reductions of timelines to strengthen buildings or potentially strengthen them. I'd say for small to medium businesses, again, financially the timing is very, very poor in this current world we're in, particularly with a whole lot more compliance and expenditure put on businesses. I did drive through Winton this morning and took note of some of our empty buildings. I think the well-intentioned heritage status of some of our buildings is proven a liability. The Liddell building right beside us, we'd love to buy it, but the reality is you can't knock it down. You've got to keep the front facade. So to actually improve our town is going to be an absolute massive capital cost. Then I just went down further down the street, Jameson's building, Theatre Hall, Bottom Pub, Middle Pub, they're all liabilities. And I think it's a big issue that needs to be addressed. And I know there's potential funding. I've been talking to Mike Frew about some of that sort of stuff, which we will utilise. But it's also a concern that the amount of funding we can get can be tagged to collaborating with other owners, which I think will be a negative contingent, because some won't want to do that. I mean, there's one landlord in town we all know that won't do anything to his building. So for us to progress, if we are reliant on other people doing the same, I think it's a foreign policy. And lastly, it's, when we did get our IEP report, the engineer did say, he said, John, the likelihood of someone dying in your building through an earthquake, the probability is lower than dying in a commercial airline crash. So, you know, I think we need to be mindful. And I don't know, is the council got any statistical data on pedestrian traffic down Main Street Winton on a weekly basis, daily basis?
No,
I doubt it.
No, I think it would be reasonably important, wouldn't it?
it's variable, of course.
Sorry.
It's quite variable, depending on where
Well, it
you're.
will be, but I mean, you know, we're not talking George Street and
No,
No.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah. But it might actually be possible through that geo thing they do with cell phones now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I've got to say.
All right, thank you, John.
Thank
I think you've got to realise there are building owners that do want to,
Mm.
you know, get on board,
Yeah.
but we need some timelines, we need some consistency, and it's very hard if we're contingent on other people.
And perhaps some flexibility.
Any questions for me?
Certainly. Is there any?
Yeah, just through you, Mr. Chair, just one point. I know that Heritage New Zealand, you know, you talked briefly about the ability to demolish, and you know, there is a wee bit of uncertainty in that space. But I know, being the team leader of the Resource Management Department, there is a lot of people that are looking to tenant buildings, but there's a bit of uncertainty as to are they going to get put up to spec. So there's almost like it's almost a chicken and egg between, you know, the building owner wants, you know, to have a tenant, but the tenant's not potentially looking to set up a business until they know that the building's up to spec and they've got the longevity of the investment. So it's almost like a little bit of a chicken and egg. But
Yeah, well, we look at the assets,
there is.
I mean, which buildings in Monte have been bought up BNZ,
Yeah.
BNZ leaving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, Jeannie. You know, the chemist, the pharmacy has been, but, you know, it's a big barrier.
Yeah,
So I think you need to make it easy for those that do want to.
definitely. And I think also building owners can work off each other, like instead of everyone strengthening their own buildings, how do you actually strengthen off each other's buildings? So instead of looking at each building in isolation and everyone having to do their own piece of work, how can you get on with each other and go, hey, we both need to come up to standard. If we both do it this way and get an engineering report that can tie them together and then use each other's strengthening off each other, then potential cost saving through that process too.
So what, Marcus, what do we do then if you're a joining building owner doesn't want to do that?
Then yeah, you've got to head your own direction, unfortunately, or look at options around how to do it effectively and efficiently, I think.
Just regarding the timing, John, I understand what you're saying, totally, the timing of this, but it was something that was put on us rather than our instigation, so, yeah, understand what it's like.
Absolutely.
It's very good at going and doing farmer surveys in September too, sometimes. Any other questions?
No, very good submission.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the trouble. And hope it all goes well for Christmas too.
Yeah, so thank you.
So Chris Henderson's spot on time for her now. The Brennan's still not here.
No, but if it's all right with you, Mr. Chairman, Peter Davey's submission,
Oh yeah,
I will read that out on his request.
okay, certainly, Simon, thanks.
So the relevant-
Yeah, I read that time. Christine's on. So Peter's submission's on page 54 with an extra email on page 63. Okay, Simon,
Thank
thanks.
you. Peter Davey has motor neuron disease and is in a wheelchair and has limited speech ability, so he's asked if I can read his submission on his behalf. There will be no questions, of course, if I am unable to answer. Just have to make it clear. Proposal to prioritise Riverton main thoroughfare. I oppose this proposal. To support my reasons for opposing, I conducted a pedestrian and vehicular survey at peak times around midday over 6 days, Thursdays to Sundays. I counted pedestrians for 1 hour outside our business, Retro at 134 Palmerston Street. I also counted number of vehicles that passed by per minute. Pedestrians, average count per hour, 5. Palmer Street shops are spread out so people tend to park outside the shop. Shops here are often open on a part-time basis, such as ours, for example, Fridays through Sundays, 11 to 4 p.m. Survey results demonstrate low pedestrian numbers even at peak times. There are no concentrations of people either working or moving around. There are no bus stops or public transport here, and hence no key walking routes. Vehicular traffic. Survey average vehicles per minute, 2. Although this is a connecting road, we have no busy intersections or traffic lights and only 1 pedestrian crossing in the entire town. In addition, Palmerston Street has only 4 higher risk double-storey buildings in earthquake situations. Please be aware, in the Christchurch earthquake, injuries only occurred from double-level buildings, debris falling onto pedestrians or traffic. Also, since 1865 in Southland Otago, nobody has been injured by debris caused by an earthquake. The chances are extremely low in a major town, let alone sleepy Riverton. Council should consider identifying only high-risk 2-level buildings initially, and these be given reasonable time to secure engineers' reports. The financial implications are huge. We don't wish to have buildings demolished in a low-risk street where there is insufficient vehicular or pedestrian traffic to warrant this action. There is a very acceptable level of risk for these buildings at present, and there is no logical reason to prioritise this area. Thank you for listening to my submission. Thank you, Peter Davey.
Thank you, Simon. Just a question for Marcus. Does it make any difference in the case of Winton and Riverton that it's a state highway that goes through?
I'm not sure exactly how that works. I don't know enough about the detail, but Simon's probably the man of the hour on this one.
That's right, through Mr. Chairman. What you've sent out in the consultation document is priority areas. So in other words, there's been consideration that the areas are higher vehicle traffic and higher pedestrians, or where people would congregate outside certain buildings. And that's the areas that you've discussion around. The outcome, of course, is that what you're doing really is reducing the time frame for the owner to act from 25 years to 12 and a half. It's basically as simple as that. Having said that, if you agree that it's a priority area, the council has to go out and assess the buildings, and then they give the owner 1 year to obtain an engineer's report, or the owner may take another year, apply for 1 year's extension. In other words, it'll be another 2.5 years before anything happens at all. Then the owner has 12.5 years from the date of the earthquake from notice to do something. So up to 14.5 years. Or 25 plus a few as well. So it is quite a long time.
There was a measure of leeway.
So the fact that a state highway is going through most of these towns is irrelevant.
Okay, thank you, Simon. So Chris Henderson was timed for 9:50 by Zoom. And the Brennans aren't here, are they?
Not yet, no.
Christine would be available, I would think, if we wanted to try and ring her.
Mm-hmm.
My phone.
What do we do? It's just the court case of phoning, is it? Christine's submission is on page 174. Her phone number's not on there, is it? Yep, it is. There you go.
Just need to give her a bell and see if you can zoom in.
Is it 174, was it?
I think so, yeah.
Has she got a Zoom appointment set up? Is it? We'll just be connecting in through the Zoom appointment.
It says
through
by
the-
Zoom, so it
Yeah,
must
so we'll just connect in through the Zoom code.
Yeah, but she'd have to ring us. We'll just have to let her know that we're ready for it early, so she can press the
She's
button.
not in the meeting.
No, she's got no way to call it out.
No, just wait 5 minutes.
I'll give her a go now tonight.
We should be there any time.
We're getting down to, it was my watch fast, we're getting down to 2 minutes anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, I got 9:45.
Oh, you're fine, that's right.
G'day, it's Marcus Roy from the Southern District Council here. How are you? Yeah, it's good. I was looking for Chris Henderson. Cool, thanks.
Foot traffic is the issues. Then at Winton is an issue.
Morning, Chris. How are you? It's good. Hey, I'm in the Regulatory and Consents Committee, and we're ready to have you on the Zoom call if you like for your submission on that program buildings. Perfect. We'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye. Should be on in a moment.
Just leave it on behind you, please.
Oh,
There's an issue there with
sorry, Gary.
the time it takes to get accepted, so they
Yeah.
don't raise the foot traffic as a matter.
Yeah. Submissions in here for Winton.
That was that one?
That's all along, some other areas and some no.
Yeah.
I think that's
Do we accept the risk of two people being killed as opposed to requiring to upgrade the building in 12 years and have people away?
Oh.
You're always going to get people on the extremes from Colin through to the
80.
other end.
I've got an 82-year-old uncle, 82-year-old uncle who's just got a phone in Sama, and he's just joined me on Messenger. He won't see the you see his ear, it's just hilarious.
It's good fun.
And he's in stuff.
Good morning.
Morning, Christine. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Gary.
It's actually Paul.
Oh, hi, Paul.
Sorry to let you down.
No, you're not at all.
I am in the room though, Christine.
I can see you, Gary. You want me to start, Paul?
You cool. We just don't see your pretty face yet, Christine. We're just
It's probably a blessing in disguise, Paul.
just hold a wee moment, will you?
Yep, I can see you all, except you.
Except me.
Yeah.
Another
You
bonus for you.
need to lean forward, Paul. There you go.
Oh, Chris, have you switched your video on, Christine?
You're live on YouTube, you are?
Yeah. But have you switched your video on at your end? To
I
make
have
you...
no idea.
Through?
It usually goes on automatically.
Okay.
Everything's different, of course.
Well, will we just continue with... We'll just carry on as you are, Christine, please.
Yeah, as long as I can see you, that's the main thing.
Yeah, excellent. As long as we can hear you is the main thing. So
Now, when I read the blurb before all this, I didn't realize that you were looking at the, it now turns out to be 5 particular places which might be earthquake prone and be a public nuisance, not a nuisance, but a public concern. Because I went through the same exercise with the Invercargill City Council where they were looking at main traffic thoroughfares and pedestrians and all that sort of thing. But, and so I might have changed it slightly because I now don't know where the 5 places are, and I would like to follow up with Simon or somebody to actually find out where they are. But my concern is latterly that too many heritage buildings are being bowled in the name of public safety, etc. We've just come through 2.5 years of working with people like yourself and Gary, trying to get the museum reopened. And my original submission said, please, as a matter of urgency, could we get the heritage buildings that are still standing, by the grace of whatever, to be looked at by professionals, including our local ones like Mick Heslin, and actually notated so that we know what we're dealing with, and that even if they do become a public hazard, so called, that it's properly assessed, given all the most up-to-date information, because since we talked about all these sorts of things, new techniques are being brought through courtesy of Christchurch, including protecting brick facades. And so there are now techniques which mean that we could be looking after these buildings without having to bowl them because they're fragile or whatever. So that's probably my main thing, Paul. But I also wanted, because I'm sick of people talking about old dungers, thank you, Jerry Brownlee, and scungy buildings, that really positive initiatives are brought into play to help the present owners who own them on behalf of the nation to actually get these buildings up to 60% of the building code and make them look attractive again, because what a difference a paint job makes. As I stand before a mirror first thing in the morning, I thank God for Revlon beauty products, because if I wandered around Southland without them, people would be rushing off, hiding at the site. So, I mean, it's just a case of, if you look at some of the buildings that have been painted up and look wonderful, that's what it takes. And we should forbid the use of grey and white paint for heritage buildings. That's not appropriate. And I'm even looking now with the Historic Places Trust at putting in mandatory protection for Art Deco buildings, because they're now 100 years old and need the same automatic protection with Historic Places Trust or Heritage New Zealand as the ones before pre-19. And we've got some wonderful buildings around here, but I know that people, for instance, in Winton, are cheesed off with the present owner of the series of buildings, including the former theatre, that have remained untouched for however long he's owned them. I'd like a full assessment of those, because my understanding is, for instance, that that theatre is as it was the day people walked out, which would be pretty amazing. And if Peter Jackson knew it was there, he would have refurbished it years ago. It's that sort of thing that we need to really look at. Wyndham, lots of other places. Gore's doing a good job, but we also need to be mindful that Invercargill needs all the help it can get. So that's my premise, Paul.
Thank you, Christine. The 5 places that we're talking about as the 5 townships, as I understand it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Winton, Wyndham, Riverton, Tuatapere, Tautau. Yeah.
Lumsden, what have we got left?
Yeah, I
Or
don't
are we village?
recall Lumsden being one of them. Yeah.
Well, that would be a good start, but because that's main thoroughfares for quite a few more people, of course.
Sure.
But if I could have some information about those places and where you're looking at, but actually have a look, Paul, at getting a team together of local experts to really get stuck in and list these buildings before anything else happens to them. Because I presume we're still, apart from Fiordland, in a medium seismic area. So the geotechnical work needs to be done too, as it was done for the museum, before any earthquake assessment is carried out fully, because that makes a difference to the final rating as well, as you well know.
Yeah. There are 3 zones in Southland.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've seen that map or not.
Invercargill's medium, apart
Yeah.
from the areas where it's been restored.
It's sort of as they work out from the Alpine fault line, really.
Oh, well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things happen if the Alpine fault goes, which it's supposed to go, but we could flatten the place and nothing would happen for 1,000 years, or it could be done tomorrow, and then a whole lot of the work would be. I mean, you've got to be philosophical about these buildings, because they do have a lot to offer, as I said in my submission, to the local feeling about your own town, but also to visitors from either in Southland or elsewhere. So, yeah, they're important places, like Oamaru with its historic precinct was discovered when they did that filming, and suddenly everyone realised just how precious that part was, but it was going to be bold at one stage.
Sure. Okay, is there any questions for Christine?
Just
Gary?
one, Christine, Gary here. I'll never look at you the same now in the mornings, but anyway.
We do see each other in the morning. Thank goodness, Gary, for your health.
So to protect these buildings would come at a cost. Are you indicating that should be a taxpayer ratepayer cost?
I think that because the buildings belong to New Zealand and that they're being looked after by the owners at this moment, we do owe them something, I think, Gary, but oftentimes they're restored with the help of the taxpayer and then repaid through rentals and things like that. So, I mean, there's a creative fiscal approach that can be taken, but there are some places that are so important that really, for all our sakes, we need to stump up. But we all gain. So I think it's an investment rather than a cost. But there are creative ways of repaying any loans. But as long as it's not too onerous on the present owner to stump up right now with a huge amount of money, when it could be repaid over time, just as we're going to be doing with the museum.
And as long as they're agreed, because as you've pointed out, some are not. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks for your interest in taking part, Christine.
Thank you, Paul, for the opportunity.
Excellent. Good on you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. Yeah, sure.
Bye.
Thanks. So, Whiten aren't here. Brennan's aren't here.
Yep, one's in kindergarten.
Oh, they're here? Excellent.
Yep.
Oh, well.
They all love seeing themselves. Should have left it on the screen because they all love seeing themselves.
Yeah.
So the Winton Kindergarten is page 193.
They wanted financial help. 260.
Good morning.
Right.
How are we?
Hello.
Good, good. So are we. We're very pleased to see some young people in here to see us. Okay.
I'm Christina. I'm a teacher from Winton Kindergarten, and we're really excited to be here to share with you our
Oh, kia ora, Christina, and welcome to you all. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Lexi.
G'day.
Hello, Lexi.
I'm not sure what we've got here.
There's a few stuff.
That's,
We've got Lizzie.
oh,
Hello,
g'day,
Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Lizzie down here. Hi, I'm Alex. This is Alex.
G'day, Alex.
And back here, very special boy. We've got Timo back here. I think he's well known to some of us.
Oh, g'day, Timo. Right.
Hi, Timo.
Big shy.
Okay, so you come to talk to us.
Yes.
And you've got a wee...
Cool. So we've put together our project. We've been working on this for the half of post-COVID. Winton is a special place for all of us, being Winton Kindergarten is in the heart of our town, and the children have got lots to share with you about their project as we give them a submission, their thoughts and feelings about the buildings, and what might need to happen in some of them. So our project started with sort of thinking about our landscape that makes up Winton, our CBD, all the buildings that line the streets, and just really thinking about them structurally, what do they look like, what's in them, and getting to know our place better. And then we headed out and about. Who came on this trip? You were there, Alex. What did we go and see? All the old buildings. And what did we notice when we were looking at these buildings? There's grass up on the roof.
Oh.
And what did we think about the grass being on the roof? Didn't look very safe. Didn't look very loved or cared for, some of these buildings. And if they're not looked after, what might happen? Some of the buildings are great. Did we notice any building structure? Did we notice anything significant building structure? What did you see, Timo? There's cracks, lots and lots of cracks in the buildings around Winton. There was a hotel that you noticed in Winton. But what was different about this hotel? No people in this hotel. And Timo, the first weekend post-lockdown, I was in Queenstown, and as we went past some electric scooters, I saw two little boys standing outside a very nice hotel, Timo and his brother. And then when we went out on this walk, he made the comment about the bottom pub in Winton, that it's a hotel and no one is there, but not because of COVID, because of the cracks that are in there and that it's not safe. The Big Quack Shop is one of our favourite places as kindy kids, after a hard day at kindy, but we do have a lot of historical buildings that surround the Big Quack Shop, and with limited parking, the buildings that are beside it are a real hazard for us if they're not maintained. Our project was really big, very, very long, so luckily Lizzie and Lexi were great artists and writers, and they were able to draw lots of the old buildings that we have along Winton's Main Street. So our poster was like, oh, it's behind us, girls. Did you notice that when we came in? All the buildings along Winton, the whole Main Street, our piece of paper just got longer and longer. We have all our drawings up there and the process that was involved with that, and just talking about some of the buildings that we knew well, some of the buildings that we didn't have a connection with, and that was quite a big theme for us as we went through this project, that we have ideas and that we have our imagination to sort of think about what might be, what these buildings might be used for, but we're unable to connect with them if they don't actually house any businesses, and that seems to be something that this is continuing with buildings, businesses moving out of the buildings and finding premises elsewhere. These children don't have a personal connection to what is in these buildings because we aren't able to utilise them. This is us out and about noticing the different architecture and design around the town. And knowing these buildings foster our sense of citizenship, belonging and home. I am part of the community and the community is a part of me. And like we said, the vacant buildings hold value in their beauty, in their history, and being a part of the Winton landscape. It's what we come to know, it's what we expect when we drive down the street, it's what we see. But it was important that we keep going out and looking at these buildings and thinking about, is this somewhere that these children, when they grow up and have families of their own, they are the business owners and occupy so many cracks in these buildings. What needs to happen to them? And Alex, you were quite concerned with earthquakes. And what might happen if there were earthquakes? Some of these buildings could break. I don't think it would take a very big earthquake for some of these buildings to topple. And why is that, Alex? What could we see? So many cracks. And then the roof is between the buildings. So there's the main street of Winton that we go along, but also our kindergarten is on Park Street, which backs the main road. And so for us, we go between various roof years to get through to the main street. We're often down there for different reasons, whether it's partaking in celebrations in our town. We've just had our Santa Parade and Winton Open Night. And all of these provide access ways for us to get through. And for us, we just noticed how unsafe they are. If you're going between two historic buildings and they're not maintained, how unsafe is it for us as a kindergarten? I think your name's up there, Alex. 60,000 earthquakes will make the hotel fall down. People inside will die. The cracks in the building, well, it's not safe because it might break if the people in there are moving around. The earthquakes are making cracks in the walls. And we've mentioned the disconnect that we felt. We're aware of this landscape already. It's our what we come to know, and it's what creates community for us as we in Winton. But we aren't personally connected to what is inside these buildings because we can't go in them. As an example here, this is the old post office beside NZ Oval, and Lenora described it as a castle, and I think the Queen lives there, which is so beautiful, but again just highlights that we don't have a personal connection to these buildings. This is quite interesting. We're outside of Heritage, on the Heritage Trail around Winton, but these buildings are closed, they're not maintained, the sign's fallen off. And Harper made the comment, I drive past all these buildings from my nanny's office. It reminds me of going shopping. You can go in them, but not all of them. Some are not a shop because it has no food. It's just old. So we just have to go get food at the white shop. And maybe heaps of people need to have the shops open again. So part of what we do at Candy is we notice these problems, but we also like to be solutions focused. And so the children were coming up with ways and means to think about if these buildings aren't being utilised, what can we do? How can we fix this problem? Emerson, I've seen this building before, but there are no shops inside. And this was quite a big conversation between two friends, Angus and Andy, talking about our buildings. Maybe the ones that are so old that might have got crashed down, like the back of them got smashed down, but the front of them didn't. I've seen this in town, where they break the back of it, but they leave the front, and that's just a reflection on the CBD rebuilding in Chicago. Andy, I think they will build a museum behind it. We don't have a museum in Winton because they didn't build one. Angus. A museum is something that has lots of bones. And yeah, like dinosaur bones and deer bones and maybe a rabbit bone. I think Winton needs a museum so that we can have some animals. But the animals will have to be dead. Maybe we could use the old buildings in Winton that don't have anything in them. If the building is too old, maybe we need to just break it down and build a new one. Or maybe we could fix the buildings with the builders. If we're going to keep them, then we need to clean them and keep them clean so that they don't break again. We would need to get the cracks out. It has cracks because it wobbles. Maybe we just need to fix the bits with the cracks. We know they're old because there is growth and some things are cracking. Quite a full process there for some of us. And Timo, you had a thought about the Jameson's building, which is in the heart of Winton as well. And Timo said, we live in Winton. I think the white one is old. Just look up at the roof. I can see cracks on the roof, so probably it's going to break down. That's what I think. I feel like it's going to crash down because it was built a long time ago. Some of the buildings are newer, so we don't need to fix them because they have no cracks. Some of them are hotels, but no one stays there because of COVID and because they are old. Does that sound about right, Timo? And then Marley was just black and white. I drive past all these buildings and they are old. And we've mentioned the bottom part already about being quite old and the concern with earthquakes. And I think this is where you were, Alex, with worrying about this huge building on the corner being quite unsafe if there were earthquakes. I always look at that one when I go past. There are some cracks And what if there were 60 earthquakes? All the people inside would die. And half to finish with, you would need to run because it will fall on you if you do. And then we've got the beautiful Winton Pharmacy, which we know has been maintained and houses a business in Winton. So Ada had to say, the building looks very old. I know they're old because no people look after them. I think they just want to go to the new buildings. But I know the one with the letters on it, Winton Pharmacy, is not old because people look after it and it has nice things in it. I wouldn't want to be in an old building because it might fall down. And Macy said the old buildings are going to knock down because they are very old. I know they are old because my mum takes me to them, so I know these things. I do love the old buildings. They're beautiful and I love going inside them. But of course the safety of our whānau and our community is at the heart of our submission. As shared in the children's voices and art and writing, action is needed to ensure that Winton CBD continues to be a place we can enjoy. This means that the prompt assessing, fixing, demolition, renovation or protection of historic buildings that have been left unmaintained for many decades is paramount. Is there anything else we want to add before we finish off? Got one last slide to share. Is there anything we could share about the buildings in Winton Lexi? What do you think could happen to them? What should we do? We need to fix any of the buildings? How do we fix them? We were talking in the foyer about being able to be in these buildings and how nice it would be if there were businesses in them. So if there aren't businesses in them, what could we do? Have you got any ideas, Lindsay? How about you, Alex? Is there anything you want to add? What could you share? What do you think could happen? The cracks? What could happen if there are cracks? What do you think we should do about that? You think we should fix them? Tina, did you want to share anything else? That's all good. So in summary, thank you for the opportunity to present our submission this morning. As you can see here, our children are proud, proactive citizens of our Central Southland community, and it's these tamariki that are the future business owners and operators and young families who will be implicated by the decisions that are made here regarding earthquake-prone buildings in our hometown of Linton. Our inquiry project and subsequent submission is planted the seed for us to ponder and reflect further on the physical features that impede our sense of place and belonging, to contemplate the intrinsic, historic, cultural, social and emotional value associated with these buildings, and to ensure that health and safety of all who make up the special community is protected through appropriate legislative powers according to council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to say Councillors Fraser and Menzies are from Winton, and Councillor Keast used to live in Winton and work in the bank there, and Mayor Gary knows Winton very well, and my dad used to work in that post office and he went to school in Winton, and my cousins were the first went to the Winton Kindy, I remember when it opened, so we know Winton a bit. So any questions from the committee? Yes.
Firstly, thank you for coming, and thank you, Christine, for encouraging our children to think and to be citizens. That's really cool. I'm just wondering about, obviously Kindy walks up and down the street. Do you see other schools and other kids walking up and down?
Yeah, I think every morning you just have to be driving through Winton at 8 o'clock or at 3 o'clock and you see we've got St Thomas's School, we've got Winton School, there's after school here, there's numerous childcare, so families are out walking, scootering, biking, pushing their friends down our main streets all the time, regardless of what's inside the buildings. It's used as a password to get to our schools and our shopping centres.
I remember going to see a pirate movie in that theatre many years ago. Right, and it was in colour.
Where we're going to comment.
You might think you're older, be looking for your cracks.
Right. Oh, look, I reiterate what Councillor Fraser said. Thanks so much for coming along. It's great to get a sense of the awareness of children around the places they live in, and you're very interested to hear what you had to say. So thanks for the effort you've gone to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope you all have a very happy Christmas.
We're going downstairs to decorate the tree, aren't we? Down into a...
Oh, right.
Decorations for us after we finish, so you can
Yeah.
as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for
See
the
ya.
plan too.
Okay.
Frank, it was excellent.
Yeah, I know.
So the
Well,
Brennan.
it should be.
We'll get to a decision now.
Give them cakes on the way out.
So,
Give them some sugar on the way out.
yeah. Well, they are.
Oh, okay.
Who we miss out on, Brennan?
It's a
I
good
think it's looking pretty good. Do we
They're normally not that
Well, I
close.
just,
summary?
perhaps, yeah, perhaps we should reiterate that the Brennans,
The
Casey's
irony
heard
is,
from them
we're hearing
already.
this in a building that's not up to standard.
I know, that's what I put this morning.
Oh, thank you, Simon. Have you heard from the Brennans at all, or?
No, I don't believe so. I will follow up.
Okay, sure. Oh, well, we've got their submission to read and, or have read, and along with the others as well. So do you wish to make any comments?
Just the last comment is councillors will now consider the submissions, all the submissions, what they've heard today. There will be a workshop following this meeting, and then a decision will be made in February. Thank you.
Okay. So to the submitters, thanks very much for coming along. You'd have heard Simon's comments that there'll be no decision making until February, and we'll have a workshop and discussion about it. While the timing is never good, we've all known that this is an issue in Southland, and so the sooner we get talking about it, the better, really. So thanks for your participation, and we will keep in contact with you, and certainly appreciate you going to the trouble to help lift their level of knowledge about your own individual townships. Thank you all. And happy Christmas to you too. Yeah, sure. So we have the resolution on, what page is it?
14.
Page 14. Would someone like to move the resolution, which is the recommendation rather, which is A, B, C and D, D being that we received the submissions.
Happy to move that.
Thanks, Mayor Gary. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Keast. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we break for morning tea, and that be the end of the meeting? Yeah. So I'll call the meeting to a close, and we'll break for morning tea, and then